I'm sorry if it seems like I'm rambling in this episode. It's just something that's heavy on my heart right now about rap. It's a weird thing to defend rap. And I think, as Chris Rock once said, it's hard to defend rap nowadays. But rap's kind of been that same way for years now. It didn't just change overnight. I think that's just my problem with people saying rap has changed. It didn't change overnight. Rap's been changing for years, slowly and slowly for years. Like Lil Wayne was the first rapper publicly known to put out a rock album. I'm just saying, changed is hard. The message, okay, but I seriously, I don't know where the message is that changed.
Hey, it's Kaylee Cuoco for Priceline. Ready to go to your happy place for a happy price? Well, why didn't you say so? Just download the Priceline app right now and save up to 60% on hotels. So whether it's Cousin Kevin's Kazoo Concert in Kansas City, go Kevin, or Becky's Bachelorette Bash in Bermuda, you never have to miss a trip ever again. So download the Priceline app today. Your savings are waiting.
Go to your happy place for a happy price. Go to your happy price, Priceline.
Okay, I've been wanting to have this conversation. We have this whole conversation, this whole episode of, rap and video games were the reasons why why we're having mass shootings now. And I've been waiting to have this conversation for a while. But let's have this conversation now, right? Because people say, on both sides of the aisle, not to get political at all, but on both sides of the aisle, people say that, video games cause stuff like this to happen. And the common denominator of a game to look at, right, is GTA, right? No matter if that's Grand Theft Auto, no matter if that's Vice City, no matter what that is, right? It's GTA. Is what we're gonna look at first, right? Because GTA is a popular game. We're gonna say Call of Duty and GTA are very common games, popular games that people really do play, and a lot of people say a lot of kids, teenagers, adults, you say that they play it just for the fun of it. They know it isn't real, right? So then we're gonna look at more video games because I like the way they say that this in music, and I know this sounds like, oh, he's rambling, but I'm just trying to bring common denominators into this. So this whole rap video game thing of it's causing people to do shootings, right? This sounds bizarre, right? Because GTA you can get in any country. In any country, right? In video games, you can get in any country. Okay. Now, for him to say that rap has changed and rap has done all of this, right? This is where my kind of knowledge of the American mob or Italian mob, this is where this doesn't sound right. Because we're not going to act like we didn't have Biggie and Tupac. Hit 'em up. Who shot you, right? Those are only a couple years old. Only a couple years old. That was no different from LL Cool J's Jack the Ripper. And Jack the Ripper isn't real. But Jack the Ripper was a character in a book that did amazing numbers because it was built on what Jack the Ripper was supposed to be. Was he a doctor? Was he a surgeon? What was Jack the Ripper, right? Right. But the whole theme of it, him saying, I am Jack the Ripper. Right, okay. We've seen people do it before when they talked about them being the Zodiac, or when I bring up Zodiac signs today, is Zodiac. I'm just saying we can refer to this to a lot of different things when we get into it, right? Like the Mad Hatter, that people either you reference it from the Batman, like the Batman, the Mad Hatter, or we get into it where we talk about the Mafia and we talk about Bugsby. We can get into that whole topic, right? Of Bugsby and this, right? The Wise Guys or whatever. Right? And then we talk about the Wise Guys. Or he's a made man. The mob used to go, he's a made man. He's a wise guy. Right? And the difference between them aren't really that different. But you hear people in rap say, he's stamped or he's certified. The mafia said, For years, he was a wise guy. Al Capone said it. Paul Castellano said the same thing. He was a wise guy. He was a made man. Right? Like, we've heard this before. So for people to say, okay, rap music caused this, caused the idea of these incidents to happen, right? And I get it. Maybe that's not the case, and maybe I'm overthinking it, right? But Jay-Z, Nas, and J. Cole released songs called Dead Presidents, or made a version of Dead Presidents. And the only dead president we have is John F. Kennedy in those years. Right? So it just seems extreme to me to say rap music caused it. Because we lived through 3 decades. We lived through enough where we had Pac and Biggie, and those two handled those situations differently. They did end up getting shot. That's another situation. The mob did end up getting shot, and I can talk about the similarities there with the mafia and the cars, stuff like that, and drive-bys. We can get all of that into that topic of rap has caused this, or rap in general has caused this. And my problem with that whole scenario of rap caused this is rap is based off the mafia, or based off the American mob, in a sense, to where no one says nothing about bootlegging, but the American rap scene, which is known to get more physical applications because of stuff like unpaid debts, long sharking, that's fine. But a rapper talks about shooting people, and I'm not justifying the actions that people take, like Melly, or I'm not justifying any of the actions or shootings or whatever. I'm not justifying any of the shootings. I'm not justifying any rapper that justifies shooting in their raps or whatever, right? I'm not justifying it, but what I'm trying to figure out is rap the problem or the idea of things, right? Because I think that's my mindset. My mindset is many of these names or many of these rappers we've got from philosophers or really a lot of people, a lot of different people. Okay, so philosophers like Jacquees isn't it's an actual name. I've heard it in a philosopher that quoted something about wisdom and us, the soul, being one. Or how for example, when they say rap has caused it, right? We've had two mobsters call themselves Machine Gun before the artist now known as Machine Gun Kelly. And Kelly was a mobster by himself, right? Kelly is a whole different mobster by himself. But he took two mobsters, Machine Gun Kelly, in my mind process, took two different mobsters' names and was like, Machine Gun Kelly. Right? No one thought about that. Because I think Kelly was his last name. Or how we talk about, or how Rick Ross has an album called The Teflon Don. But the Teflon Don has been passed down 3 times in American mafia history. American, Italian, in history, it has. The Teflon Don has been referred to as John Gotti, which people say, where I think there was a song called John Gotti, but they didn't reference the actual mobster John Gotti. Right? Or Sammy the Bull Gravano. I'm just saying, at this point, right? At what point do we go, rap has changed? It hasn't. Rap was born from the idea of mobsters, in a sense. Where mobsters' their whole idea was, we're gonna get money. There were mobsters in a weird way. There were a lot of mobsters or gangsters, whatever you call them, right? There were a lot of them paying for a lot of American artists, for a lot of artists. And I think a lot of people will say, well, Gotti has 2 different meanings. Yes, Gotti has 2 different meanings, right? Gotti, fine, right? But people got attached to the name Gotti, not realizing it was the Gotti crime family, right? But people say Gotti John Gotti or Yo Gotti. They added the name Gotti the same way John Gotti's name was spelled. But you'll hear no references to John Gotti, right? But then it's rap has changed. And John Gotti, no matter if you heard it from Kevin Gates or Yo Gotti, they're not that old. They're like a couple years old. Like in the last 12 years, they're that old. So I don't think rap has changed to where it's causing people to act incredibly different. That's just not the case. If that's the case, then there's a lot of history behind this that we need to talk about, right? And for days, I can argue both sides of, oh, well, rap is a little more violent. Is it really? Rap is more violent than it is now? Okay. If that is the case, I would like to petition this. No one had a problem. Nobody was after, like, we can get into J. Hoover and all of, I can get into all of this, right? And turn this whole musically thing into music, right? But I'm not gonna get into that, right? How people said that the FBI is always watching. Oh, where 2 Chainz said the feds are always watching. We know he was talking about the FBI, but we'll talk about that into a different language. Or when people say pigs, or when people say pigs. Or 12. 12 came from the mafia, which they called them pigs, and we can talk about this, how they didn't like cops and this, and how in different cultures they still don't like cops to this day. Like, we can get into the cookie cutter, the definitions behind this, and why this should never happen, or why this or rap has become more violent, or whatever, right? Like, we can argue this. And for example, if somebody says, well, Melly made a case. Melly is in a case for, I believe, killing a guy, and he made a song called "Murder on His Mind." Well, I'm going to argue both sides, where people say, well, clearly he actually murdered that person in real life, and it's clear because he wrote about it in a song. Okay. So what makes a rapper different from an entertainer? So if I went to Broad Street and saw Opera the Phantom or Witch, right? What's the difference? Or Hamilton, for example, when they kill fake people, right, in the play, or in Shakespeare, right? Like, they've done it for years. They're entertainers. But when rappers mention in a song, we make a law about it. For example, right? For example, you can say that, right? But in the song, in that same exact song where he says "murder on my mind," he says he shot him by accident. That sounds like self-defense. Possibly. We could argue that self-defense is not self-defense. He didn't know he was coming. He knew he was coming, or whatever, right? Get into the details of that case. And then we can get into the case of really anybody. We can get into the case of I would say him valid with anybody. I think if we go hit him up, it might seem a bit suspicious to go hit him up and then he dies a couple days later, right? But he wasn't charged for that, right? Like, no one was charged for that. Or when Killshot, when Eminem was joking about it, right? But then you have, you got places where they want to, like, and I hate to say this, right? But if we hold Tupac and Biggie to the two greatest of all times, it didn't change in a different language. I promise you it didn't. It doesn't change much, in a sense. Like, if I was to say why, in French, it's pourquoi. It's still why. I mean, the difference isn't there. But that's what I'm saying. I don't understand if rap has changed, I don't see it. And that's only because they're talking about the same stuff Jay-Z did. Kanye. I mean, we can go on for days. Right? Like, they've talked about women in songs for years. Kanye did it. Jay-Z did it. In all of his blueprints, he's done it. Right? It's hard for me to go, well, rap has talked about, Chance the Rapper talks about love. Kanye talks about experiences that he did. College Dropout, for example. Late registration. I'm just saying, graduation. He's talked about other stuff. And Kanye still considered rap to a degree, But that's what he has talked about it. He's talked about the college experience. He's talked about his life experiences, right? He's talked about the party life, right? Jay-Z has talked about how he made the money and became a rapper, and that's fine, right? But then you have cases where that was fine, but now that Melly did it recently, we'll say 2016 is when Melly dropped Murder on My Mind and Mama Cry. That album, it was a problem, right? He's being charged for those lyrics, I believe. So is Gunna, I believe. Or so is Young Thug, right? But at one point, no one cared. Not a single person overlooked it and were like, well, you know, these lyrics are bad for people and we shouldn't really be... Like Jordan Lucas, like the last name Lucas is common, right? But the mobster Frank Lucas is not common knowledge, but was one of the most richest gangsters known to history today. He was one of the most famous gangsters of all time, right? Like the El Chapo, right? Like rap. That's what I'm saying. El Chapo was El Chapo before El Chapo was El Chapo. So people were rapping about El Chapo, didn't realize it was a mobster. His nickname was El Chapo, or a gangster that was known. His name was El Chapo, and he was still one of the top 10 richest. One of the top 10 richest men in the world. One of the top richest gangsters in the world. Or Superfly, right? People have made songs about being Superfly. Now, granted, they might not have been talking about Frank Lucas, Superfly, or Cadillac Frank, right? But they used to drive the old Cadillacs because that's what the mafia represented. Like, this is what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, if we're going to argue that rap has changed over time, I can't see it. I just can't. I can't see it. Like, there was a mobster called Albert TikTok. Not how it's spelled on the app, but it's TikTok. It's TICKTOCK. Right? And it's crazy to me because it was a word known for bosses. People still say he's a made man today, but the phrase "man made" came from the mob. Now, while we can sit here and argue and say that the mob is not in the music industry as much as it once was, that is fine. I'm not arguing that the mob isn't as into rap as it once was, but for to say rap has changed, it kind of bothers me because people have been talking about murder raps for years. People also talk about love and rap if you consider Drake rap, right? So then, what in rap has changed? Right? Because GTA and Call of Duty have been the same for years. And granted, there have been some people that said that there are some games that made them do it. But there was 66% in a Harvard study that said that there was 66 people that played violent video games that didn't have any emotional reaction to the game. Now, granted, they do have labels on them like E, M, mature for everyone. E is for everyone. M is for mature audiences only, right? Like, we could talk about this for you. I could have this whole conversation about why I believe half of the stuff that we could be arguing bothers me. Because I love rap so dearly that it frustrates me for people to say, "Oh, rap has changed." Rap might have changed because of like the sound, the mumbling, the words we can't hear, them putting words together, but it has not changed. Which brings me back to the same song J. Cole won. J. Cole had a song. It was called False Prophet. Like the fake belief of them doing something different. Like these auto-tunes we've heard from the Migos, anybody. We've heard this from T-Pain before. And before that, T-Pain and was Swiss. We've heard this before. So where did rap change? Because murder was still talked about. Crimes were still talked about in rap for years. Method, Redman. Rap has been talked about has talked about murder or crimes for years. Robberies, they've done it for years. And we could argue and say it didn't really. But if it changed, Lil Wayne's incident, which is related to a rap Red Zone trial, so I'm not even going to talk about it. But I'm going to go to little details where they tried to kill Lil Wayne. What was that? And to say it got more violent? No, you could find artists in the rap genre that were truly about growth, creation. There are many different styles of rap. Like, rap is a genre, yes. Rap is considered anything you rap about, but Black Thought is about empowerment. So is J. Cole. So is Kendrick Lamar, that he even admitted to cheating in his newest album, on one of the songs on his newest album. So is Rick Ross, is about improvement. Like, we can talk about the Young Thug, 2 Chainz. 2 Chainz made a song about women years ago, in the early 2000s. So to have this argument in 2022 seems a tad bit strange to me. Because a birthday song people love to play is by 2 Chainz. And 2 Chainz talks about women terribly. Tyga also does the same thing in Hey Ladies. That's still early 2000s. That's still considered rap. Right? So my whole argument of people saying, well, rap has changed. Where? Because depending on what rap you listen to, you can find different things. Like, you can find Method Man, Redman, Jay-Z, J. Cole, or you can find Uzi. Young Thug, Gunna. You can find this for years. If you want to look at rap and say that it's changed, that's fine. But rap as a whole rap is a bigger genre in a bunch of mini subsections and a bunch of little subcategories. So for them to say, well, rap has changed. Rap has not changed. Rap hasn't influenced people like it hasn't before. Right? Because if that is the case, there are a lot of songs where they degrade women and it's still allowed. Why? Right? Like, it's still allowed, right? If you think about it, it's like, if you think about it, the whole idea of it sounds crazy. Because rap is just a big genre. Like, you have American rap, you have American drill rap, you have New England drill rap, you have normal UK rap, you have normal German rap, you have drill rap. Like, this is why they make subsections in these genres. R&B just isn't R&B by itself, but I can sit here and talk about how R&B has changed, right? Rap hasn't changed much. It's probably the same stuff. R&B, same way. Same songs, different lyrics. Right? Different voices, stuff like that. There's really no difference in rap. And I think that's my problem. My problem is rap, depending on how you look at rap, you can find a lot of rap. I can find diss tracks where they talk terrible about the person or their wives. But if I go looking for it, I can't expect not to find it. Right? There are a bunch of different people in country. A lot of different people in R&B. A lot of different R&B. Like the soul. Like, this is my thing. We can argue. Like, my whole topic is, what are they consider? Like, what are we considering rap? That you have said rap has changed. Rap has not changed in years. Eminem talked about how he handles abuse in majority of his songs, but rap has changed. Eminem did the same thing in Kamikaze, did the same thing in the murder side. Right? Like, Eminem's music has not changed. He's involved as a person, which I hope everyone as a person does gradually change over time. But the topic, the lyrics, everything is the same. What has changed? Nothing. The sole subject of, but if you look for raps with guns, you can find it. That's not a problem. Right? If I'm looking for a rap that's inspiring, like a Cole or a Kendrick, or a Black Thought, or a Method Man, or a Redman, or a Jay-Z, I can find it. If I want a song about growth, I can go to Kanye. I'm just saying. Or if I want to talk about love, or a rapper that talks about love, Chance the Rapper. Right? Like, you can find these rappers if you care to look for them. So that's my whole thing. And if we say, well, mainstream rap, Drake talks about love. How terrible he is at it, but he talks about love. He talks about a lot of stuff. Talks about how he messed his chances up with women. Like, we can talk about this for days and say, well, I wonder what has changed. What changed? Besides not hearing the 808s as much as we did in the kicks, the 808s, the beat the beat over the years have changed drastically. We're not hearing those 808 drums, the kicks. We're hearing more trumpets than we've heard before. It's less original. We've heard auto-tune for years. But the context, the idea, the beliefs that most rappers persuade have been doing it for years. People like Rolls Royce. Charles Rolls Royce. 2 last names, but they got rich off of it. Ferrari's gotten rich off of it. McLaren's got rich off of it. Rap has overall made a lot of companies rich. People saying, oh, I had to get a Rolls Royce, or I had to get a Bentley, and we could argue BMW, Bentley later, right? Like, we could argue all of this later. But people talking in their rap songs about a Rolex at one point. Rolex is sold out. Richard Millie's this current year that people are just so fond upon because they look so weird. G-Shock. The chains. We can get all types of gold later, fake, real. We can get all of that. But that's been the same for years. Rap has literally been the same for years. Cars, house. They rap about their cars. They rap about the house. They rap about the women. Rap's been the same for years. So to say, oh, rap has changed and it has taken us away from our values, or taking us away from our morals. Let's argue that moral part, right? Let's argue that moral part. Let's argue that Hit 'Em Up didn't come out years ago, before we're having this discussion. Let's argue Hit 'Em Up didn't come out before then. Let's argue Dead Presidents. They're years long. Street Dream by Nas. They've been around for years. They were on their first albums. Yet we had one president die. If we're going in the context and not picking these songs out by title or name or this, we have Lucky Dave, we have Khalid, we have JID, we have Boss, we have, I can name a whole roster from KOD. We have Schoolboy Q. We talks to him about his abuses with drugs, but we've had this before. Jay Electra, we've had this before. Rap has not changed. Rap hasn't. I hate to be that god or the person. I hate to be the person to bear news, but it hasn't. Rap's always been mainstream, depending on who you listen to. Now, granted, I do listen to rap, R&Bs, different type of R&Bs, different kind of raps from different countries, raps. They've all been the same. So what are we arguing? That rap hasn't changed? Because rap's been the same for years. I could argue this point till I'm dead. Because rap hasn't changed. The stories behind it have not changed. The effects behind it might have changed, where they're making laws that say that if you write something in your song, it might have changed, right? Rap has always glorified the ability to, if you do the crime, or you can get away with it, like TK, or if you're a solid person like Bobby Smurder, when you get home, if you look at the mainstream rap, when you get home, we're always we're there. We're there. We don't have to worry about nothing. We're there. We're gonna support you and give you a glory to the King because you stuck it out and didn't tell on anybody. But that message has been around for years. If you don't believe me, think about it. When they were arguing about who had papers on who, like if we were arguing who had papers on who, 50 Cent, Ja Rule, Fat Joe, they've done these for years. We've done this for years. Big Pun, we've done these for years. Treat people like if they have papers written or help them by the law, then we saw it as a crime. T.I., for example, done the same thing. So what are we arguing? What are we arguing? I would love to know. What are we arguing? I would love to know. What was the argument of, oh, rap has not changed? What's the argument of rap has changed? I would like to know that argument because I would love to battle that argument of, oh, the concept have changed. No, we've been talking about rap. Mainstream rap has been talking about murder for years. The whole concept was that's why Drake couldn't get in. That's why Snoop denied Drake his opportunity, because Drake said, I don't know what to do with somebody that's a software rapper that talks about experience. They had nothing to do with that. Kanye had nothing. They didn't know what to do with Kanye because Kanye was good at making beats, but the songs, he didn't think that those songs would get played on the radio. So what songs are we talking about? What rap are we talking about that has changed? Because we're still glorifying guns. We've been doing that for years. We've been glorifying that if you come home and do not tell, you will be okay. The public will set you up. People will listen to your music more because you held your own. That hasn't changed. The Mafia did it with Sammy the Bull. They've done this for years. I'm missing the point of rap has affected people. I'm missing it. I would love to know, but I feel like we're missing the point of rap was a way of expression. So was R&B. So was country. It's a way of expressing yourself. So I'm missing the point. But I would love to have this conversation. Anybody want to take me up on this conversation? I would love to. We could have this conversation. I would love to talk about this conversation. I would love to. Because I don't see what has changed. The concept of these guns or what. I don't know. I don't see the concept. If we say Stan, well, yeah, okay, Stan was about a crazy fan that was obsessed with Eminem. That he thought Eminem was, him and Eminem were one person. Or that they shared an idea or a life. But if I can't express myself through music like rap was created for, or R&B were created for, or country were created for, then what would be the point of music? The whole reason we have R&B is because of Miles Davis and the trumpet and creating the blues. Elvis created the blues and made it rock and roll. Right? Like, we could look at these two different ways of how music was created or how rap was created. And we end up in the same situation that I ended up in before. What has changed? The music? Maybe. The instruments? For sure. There are less 808s? For sure. Younger producers? Yeah. Newer artists? Yeah. New ways to be discovered? Yeah. But what has changed? Because Lil Nas X is talking about relationships, but they've talked about relationships in songs before. Jay even said I was married to B. And now I have, 2 Bs? A Beyonce and a billionaire? Recently? What has changed? We found out Ray J made a song about Kim Kardashian. I'm just saying, what has changed? I would love to argue this because I cannot figure out what's changed. If you listen to mainstream, well, if you only listen to mainstream, you're going to hear a lot of stuff about mainstream. Right? Right? The concept of these two have never changed. And we've had this idea before, and people said the same thing. If you don't talk about serious stuff or sound gangster enough, you won't make it on the radio. Now, granted, that has changed. but a philosophy of if you don't have a hit song with your album, it won't sell. Thanks to J. Cole, right? Tyler the Creator is different. Lil Nas X is probably different from what people expected. But rap as a whole hasn't changed. The concept hasn't changed. It was about love. It was a way. Rap is literally an expression. Rap, R&B, country, genres themselves, alternatives are a way to express themselves. So I'm finding it kind of hard to say, well, this is the reason this happened. You're gonna have to persuade me a little bit because I don't see the difference, right? We could argue the mafia persuaded rap, and rap was something for the mobsters and for the rappers to express themselves. But I'm trying to figure the logic of rap has changed over the years. I just can't find that logic. I can't. But I would love to know if you can find it. If you can find it, please let me know. Please let me know. I would love to find this logic. I would love to find a belief, right, of rap causes or rap and video games have changed, causing us to act as. I would love to find that. I would love to find that information.